Okay, say welcome back to Hot Mess Murder Club.
Welcome back to Hot Mess Murder Club. This is Kat, my best friend, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Okay. All right. Good job, buddy. Now get out of here. We're going to be talking about murder. Bye.
He said, okay. Okay, let's go talk about murder.
Okay.
That's cool.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was one of my stepsons. He was eager beaver to be part of it today, so there he goes.
That was cute.
And just everybody knows he is gone. He's out of the room. He's not going to hear about all this nonsense. He's playing Castle Crushers or some shit on the Xbox. So either way, welcome back to Hot Mess Murder Club. This here is the podcast where we dive into the darkest, most chaotic corners of human depravity and try our absolute hardest not to lose our minds in the process. So grab your iced coffees and maybe you want to spike them tonight because today's vintage nightmare requires maximum caffeine and serious emotional fortitude. And riding shotgun in my rusty tetanus trap of a time machine is Miss Holly. She is the only person I choose to drag into this smog-choked, jazz-fueled nightmare of 1920s LA. Mostly because I know if things go south, she won't think twice about using a flapper's pearl necklace to garrote a kidnapper. Holly, how are you?
I'm great. I can't wait to go where everyone was inhaling asbestos and walking all over active crime scenes. I mean, just an absolute horror show. What are we driving into today?
Well, today, Holly, we are traveling back in time to Los Angeles in 1927.
Can I stop?
Yeah?
I have noticed a trend over the last couple of episodes with us doing these older episodes. Like, the 20s were fucked up.
20s were wild.
Like, for them all being so fancy and snazzy, like, they're fucking crazy back in the 20s. I thought it was bad now.
Yeah, I mean, and now that you say that, that is actually kind of the case. We've done a lot of these old-timey murder ones, and not only is there a lot of them, but they're all really fucked up. They're all weird. This one is right up there with everything else. So the Los Angeles Times rightfully dubbed this the most horrible crime of the 1920s. This case features a massive interstate manhunt, a legal circus, and a villain so deeply arrogant and deranged that you are going to need a stress ball. So let's get into that chronological horror show that is the abduction and murder of 12-year-old Marion Parker. Okay, so a little background on Miss Marion Parker's life. Before the story spirals into an absolute nightmare, we need to talk about the Parker family dynamic, because they were essentially living the 1920s American dream. The parents were Perry Parker and Geraldine Heisel. Perry was an assistant cashier at the First National Bank of Los Angeles. He wasn't pulling in Rockefeller money. He was described as a man of moderate financial means, but he made enough to provide a seriously comfortable, picturesque life. The family lived in a gorgeous two-story wood-shingled Victorian home located at 1631 South Wilton Place. They were a tight-knit crew, constantly seen together at local gatherings and school events, living what neighbors called a happy suburban ideal. The couple had 3 kiddos. Marion wasn't an only child. She was part of a package deal. She was an identical twin to her sister, Marjorie Helen Parker. Marjorie. I don't know why I keep saying words like that. Marjorie Helen Parker. The girls were born on October 11th, 1915. And because every family needs an older sibling to idolize, the twins had a big brother, Perry Willard Parker, born in 1907, whom the girls absolutely doted on.
Now, here's the fascinating thing about identical twins. They might share the exact same face, but they rarely share the same vibes. And the Parker twins were absolutely no exception. Marjorie leaned into the traditionally feminine pursuits of the era. Marion, on the other hand, well, Marion was the fairer one, because the second one always is. She was famously known as the tomboy of the family, and she had a rougher edge and was absolutely not afraid to ruin a perfectly good dress by getting it covered in dirt. While other kids were having While other kids were having tea parties, Marion was out there playing with trucks and trains and casually jumping into games of football with the neighborhood boys. But in a really beautiful, slightly heartbreaking paradox, this tough football playing tomboy was also the softer of the two sisters. Beneath the rough and tumble exterior, Marianne was actually noted to be incredibly timid, shy, and deeply sensitive.
Oh, sounds kind of sweet. She's out
I
there
feel like
beating boys' asses and then goes home and cries about it.
I feel like every little kid, like the ones that are rougher on the outside, they really are just softies. Most of them
Yeah.
are. It's like me. I'm kind of soft.
What the fuck was that, Holly?
What?
Did your phone just a ding, ding, ding?
That was my watch.
Get it out of here.
It was an email from Crocs.
Crocs.
It was HR. I'm not in
It was
trouble.
HR. They've probably
was.
watched the podcast and they're like, we need to send out an email.
No, it was notifying me that I have a new hire starting tomorrow.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, so if there was one defining trait about Marion's childhood, it was her absolute devotion to her father. She and Perry shared a profoundly deep bond. In fact, she loved him so much that she would frequently spend her afternoons just hanging out by his side at the bank where he worked. She just wanted to be near him. But tragically, that beautiful father-daughter bound. Hello, welcome to Arkansas. That beautiful father-daughter bond is exactly what sealed her fate. By hanging out at the bank, she became a known entity to Perry's coworkers, including a bitter, soon-to-be-fired loser named William Hickman. Both Marion and Marjorie attended Mount Vernon Junior High School in the Lafayette Square District, living out their normal middle school lives. And just to twist the knife a little deeper into your soul, on December 15th, the day that Hickman waltzed into the school administration office, lied to the registrar, and stole Marion away from her perfectly safe suburban life, she had been sitting in her classroom enjoying a middle school Christmas party.
Aw.
Yeah.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
It's a time of the year. People cherish it.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, this was not a good time. So, to understand how this nightmare was set into motion, we have to talk about the world's most toxic workplace grievance. Back in 1926, Perry Parker caught his 19-year-old coworker, William Edward Hickman, forging $400 checks at the First National Bank. Perry did the entirely logical thing and reported him. Hickman caught a conviction and was sentenced to probation. Now, a normal person might take the massive legal blow, reflect on their terrible life choices, and walk away. But not Hick. It sounded like I choked on his name.
But not Hick.
Yeah, Hawk and a Luli. Hawk and a loogie over here. Shut up. Not Hickman. This absolute clown had the sheer audacity to go back to the bank and ask for his job back. When Perry obviously shut that down, he refused to take accountability. Instead, he blamed his former boss for his ruined reputation and hatched a premeditated, sickening revenge plot. Because Hickman had learned about Perry's family during his time at the bank, he decided the ultimate retaliation was to hit Perry where it would hurt the most, and that's exactly what happened here. I mean, good for him. Dude's got some balls trying to go back and ask for his job back after already taking a conviction.
I mean, I don't even know if I would do that. And I do some pretty brazen shit.
I'm just thinking, like, honestly, I'm surprised he only got probation. You're forging checks as a banker in a bank. Like, I thought that's immediately a felony, I think, isn't it? That's a felony.
That's what I would think, at least nowadays.
I mean, like $400 in the 1920s. What do you think that would be the equivalent to today? Like,
well, Holly, allow me to see.
$2,000.
A few moments later.
So it looks like Wow, shit. So $400 in 1920 is equivalent in purchasing power to approximately $6,535.70 in 2026.
Okay, so yeah, that's a felony. It's over $750. But only got
In today's money.
And then but then he goes back to the bank's like, hey, oops, can I have my job back?
Sorry.
Yeah, my bad. And no, it's your fault. You're the reason. Blame the banker.
Well, then it gets even worse when you know that that's the whole reason that this entire case exists. Because he got busted doing something stupid.
I mean, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yeah, I guess you can say. So the escalation from bitter ex-employee to full-blown predator was calculated. He didn't just wake up and wing it. He stalked them. On December 14th, the day right before the abduction, Marion and Marjorie actually noticed a strange man watching them outside their beautiful Victorian home. When the girls got in their streetcar to leave, this creep followed them in his vehicle. He was literally smiling at them through the glass, motioning for the 12-year-old girls to get off the streetcar and come over to his car. Luckily, the twins possessed actual survival instincts and completely ignored him. But he had his sights set, and he wasn't going to just drive away that easily.
Stranger danger.
What a fucking creep.
Stranger danger. So that brings us to the day that the trap springs. Around noon on December 15th, Hickman waltzes into Mount Vernon Junior High School. He approaches the registrar, Mary Holt, introduces himself as Mr. Cooper, and claims to be an employee from Perry's bank. He spins a frantic, dramatic lie that Perry was in a serious car accident and is demanding his younger daughter be brought by his side immediately. Now, here's where his supposed criminal mastermind persona hits a deeply stupid speed bump. He didn't actually do enough research to realize the girls were identical. Mary Holt looks at him and asks, which one? They're twins. Well,
logical question.
This question bamboozles him for just a moment and, scrambling to cover his tracks, quickly specifies Marion. And despite this incredibly weird red flag interaction, the school just obliges. They walk down the hall and pull Marion right out of her classroom Christmas party. Now,
that is so terrifying.
Yes. But at the same time, if this guy is out to get Mr. Perry, because that's what this is about, right? He's out to get Mr. Perry. He's going after the kid. Well, now he's been made aware that there's twins. There's two of them. If you're really trying to get them, why wouldn't you go for both?
I don't know. Maybe he just had his mind set on taking the one that is like the daddy's girl.
I mean, that would obviously have made this much more tragic by taking both.
And one is definitely easier to manage than two.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you're going to take one, take the favorite one or the one that's closest to the guy rather than taking two and then just having like all of that, two children.
As the teachers at the school, like the registrar lady, aside from the fact that she didn't question who this man was that's pulling them, beyond the fact that, I'm Mr.
It's Mr. Cooper.
Dad was in an accident and he demands his daughter immediately. I'd be like,
just one.
Father, if he's, what father is like, that's clearly the favorite. Like, something would be wrong there, and it was just a lot of red flags. So,
well, not only that, now that we mention it, when he goes in there and says the dad's been in a terrible car accident, I need to pull just one of his kids out.
Right.
What about the other one?
The other one doesn't matter.
It's
not the favorite.
Right. That's just Marjorie.
That's what I'm saying. The teachers should have at least caught that. Like, if it's something so tragic, these terrible accidents, the kids have to be there. But why is it just the one child? Like that? Right. That would cause me to question, or I feel anybody with a singular brain cell, to question that.
You would think.
And
you would think.
And they're the ones that are teaching the children
How to be just as
that,
stupid.
and
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it?
I mean, they made it. Well, not this
Uh,
one, but like,
right.
that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
So
That's
the
not what I
last
meant.
moments Marion was seen alive are infuriating enough to make you want to throw a chair through a window. The school staff literally stood there and watched as little Marion sauntered down the hallway toward Hickman's light-colored coupe. To sell the lie to everyone watching, he looked at the terrified child and reportedly told her, "Don't cry, little girl. I'll take you to your daddy." Trusting the adults who were supposed to protect her, she climbed into the passenger seat. The car drove away from the school, and Marion Parker was never seen alive again by her family. She didn't make it.
Aw. I'm not trying to laugh, but the look on your face makes me want to laugh.
Well, it's because you're like, they made it. I just wanted to make sure that you knew she didn't make it.
Okay, fast forward to that afternoon. Hickman had just driven off with 12-year-old Marion, and the terrifying reality of the situation doesn't hit the Parker family like a bomb. It starts a slow, agonizing burn. The first person to realize something is horribly wrong is Marion's mother, of course. When the school day ends, Marion's identical twin sister Marjorie walks home alone. Now, if you know anything about twins, this is an immediate reason to assume something is not okay. They do not just randomly separate for the walk home. Geraldine sees Marjorie walk through the door all by herself, and her stomach just completely drops. She immediately starts working the phones, calling Marion's friends, checking with schoolmates, desperately trying to find anyone who has seen her. When she comes up empty and panic fully sets in, she calls her husband, Perry, at First National Bank. Perry immediately contacts the school officials, and this is when the school administration casually drops the anvil on his head. They tell him, "Oh, it's fine. A man posing as a bank employee named Mr. Cooper came and picked her up. He said you were in the hospital after a terrible car accident." Okay. You cannot even fathom the sheer visceral terror of that moment, knowing instantly that you're perfectly fine and some random stranger just casually checked your daughter right out of middle school. Like, whoa.
That's
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
crazy. I don't know. I mean, how would you feel having two kids of your own if only one of them came home?
your stomach would just drop because how the hell did that just happen? But I mean, we also have to think we're 100 years past this now. So the way the schools are with like how violent the world has gotten, they've implied a lot more safety measures on who is allowed to pick up your children and who, like, I'm assuming because of stuff like this. Aside from the fact that I would be horrified and scared and angry, I would be up there beating somebody's ass. Somebody would be in trouble. Like, I don't care. I will catch a fucking charge. Where's my fucking kid? And then
Maybe that's also another reason that he only took one of them, so the other one would go home without the other and completely make them lose their minds.
I think I'd be more devastated if both of my children were missing than just the one. Like, of course, that I know that comes out bad.
I'm telling them.
I'm not
telling
saying,
them
like,
you said that.
more important than the other. I'm saying, like, losing both would, like, destroy any parent. Like, losing the, like, they had 3, like, the oldest brother or whatever, but they're twins. So, what?
They could spare one.
Saying that.
They could spare one.
That is not what
They
I'm
had 3.
saying. I'm saying, like,
I know,
I'm
but it's
saying,
just,
like, it would destroy any parent. Like, it's bad enough to lose one, but to lose what feels like everything to you in just a moment that is 100% preventable. I don't know. There's no amount of money that can fix that. There is nobody that can replace them. There's nothing that anybody can do to fix that hole in your heart at that time.
yeah. I mean, I would feel that too, obviously with my stepkids, but like I said, you know, realistically, it's not the same because they're not my biological children. I didn't mother them, but it's not.
You
it's
just
not the
told
same.
you just
thing,
told
you know what I
Easton
mean?
to call you his best friend, and everybody who heard his little intro.
I am his best
But
friend.
you
He says it all the time. No, because he didn't remember his script. He's 6. We went over the script before he came in here, and he was perfectly
he
okay
was
with
nervous. This was his big debut. I know,
That's why
but
I was helping him.
you told him to say that you're his best friend. That's not really. What's
your fucking point?
Nothing. You're my best friend.
Oh, I see what the problem
Whatever.
is. I see.
Jacoby and Kai are my best friends.
You know, you pay more attention to your kids than me, so how the fuck do you think I feel? I'm your best friend.
Dude, you've been saying that since I had kids. You're like, you're just gonna drop me after 35 years? I know.
I've known you longer.
I guess it's okay since he can't feed himself.
Not yet. Well, they can now, so I'm a little more irritated at this point because they can do things for themselves, and you still choose to do that.
Fuck
Anyways,
you.
so after Marjorie calls her husband, Perry doesn't hesitate. The second he hears the school's absolutely outrageous story, he knows Marion has been abducted. He hangs up and immediately calls the police. Officers rush to the Parker residence. They sit down with the family and take a detailed description of Marion so they know who exactly they are searching for. She's 4'6", 100 pounds, bobbed straight dark brown hair, and wearing an English print dress. They also get the description of the man the school so nonchalantly let her walk away with. A white male somewhere between 25 and 30 years old, 5'8", 150 pounds, and wearing a heavy grayish-brown overcoat. Kind of scary that apparently all it took to steal a child in the 20s was a heavy overcoat and an ounce of unearned confidence. But, to the LAPD's credit, they actually spring into action. Chief of Detectives Herman Klein doesn't mess around with this one. He immediately orders every single available officer to join the case. The descriptions of Marion and her kidnapper are blasted out to the press instantly. The manhunt officially has begun.
The school says that the man was somewhere between 25 and 30 years old. Wasn't he 19?
Yeah, he was. I was thinking that too. I'm like, he must look fucking rough.
Didn't have very good skincare regimens back then.
They probably didn't. I mean, I haven't used a skincare regimen. In fact, even now at 40 years old, yeah, I'll say it. All I do is I'll wash my face and put moisturizer on, and that's it. And I feel like people would not think that I was 10 years older than I actually am.
You don't look 50.
Thank you.
I don't look my age. I look young for my age.
You didn't say that I looked good or young for my age. You said you don't look 50.
You look great, Kat.
Just keep fucking going. I don't need this. I didn't sign up
You're
for this
beautiful.
Today. I was trying to give myself a little boost of confidence.
Beautiful. You don't even need makeup. I wouldn't do the podcast 2 days ago because I had a facial the other day and refused to be on camera without makeup on my face. You don't need that because you're naturally glowing. You're just gorgeous. I have to make myself look like this. This isn't natural.
I don't believe a
know
goddamn
what?
word you're saying right
It
now.
sucks. What sucks about being friends with you is I could be so genuine. I could be so genuine and you're still going to be a bitch about it. Like, fuck you. That's
Yeah.
the last compliment you get from me. I'm going to continue this.
You know how many times you've said that to me? I'm never saying anything nice to you ever again. And then here we are 10 seconds ago. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. And then I'm just like, you know what?
Fine.
I don't believe you.
If I actually didn't say anything nice to you, you would start to feel bad about yourself. You need that reassurance from me.
I just heard a very loud banging sound coming from my living room.
Okay.
I'm not going to go
That's-
check though.
It's probably not a body.
Anyways,
Oh, I gotta
continue.
Okay. Let's talk a little about the downright torment William put this family through with his games. So now, while the Parker family is trapped in an active nightmare, douchebag Hickman is busy living out his comic book supervillain fantasy. The torment kicks off on the very same day he steals Marion. On December 15th, he fires off a telegram from Pasadena ordering Perry to do positively nothing and wait for a special delivery letter. Later that evening, another telegram arrives from Alhambra. This one is signed George Fox, and it states, Marion secure, use good judgment, interference with my plans dangerous. This is the birth of the alias that the media would latch onto for the entire nationwide manhunt, the Fox. William later confessed he picked these incredibly dramatic names, including Fate and Death, because he genuinely viewed himself as a brilliant criminal mastermind. But anyway, the communications he sends to Perry over these 3 days are a deeply disturbed mix of massive ego, pretentious classical references, and sheer psychological torture. He relishes the power of taunting the family and the authorities.
Ugh. He thinks that he's a brilliant criminal mastermind, and he's using nicknames like Fate
The
and
Fox.
Death. George Fox? He didn't even come up with George Fox. The media did. Or with, the Fox. He's George
The Fox sounds cooler than George Fox.
It really does. That's why, the media made him sound way cooler than what he actually is. He looks old as fuck.
25 years old. Fucking grandpa.
Yeah, pawpaw. So then on December 16th, the official demand arrives via special delivery letter, just like he promised. He outlines his demand for $1,500 in $20 gold certificates, which is about $28,000 in today's money. But he can't just ask for the cash like a normal person. He has to be excessively dramatic about it. He literally brands the note with a Greek word for death and warns that if Perry fails to comply, no one will ever see the girl again except the angels in heaven. But the most devastating part of this letter isn't Hickman's pathetic grandstanding. It's a forced postscript from a 12-year-old Marion herself. He used the terrified child to pressure her father, having her write in her own handwriting, "Daddy, please do what this man tells you. I want to come home tonight." It is pure, calculated manipulation designed to break Perry's heart, and that is exactly
That's
what
kinda
it did.
sad. But following the instructions on the ransom note, a terrified and desperate Perry packed up the money and drove to the designated meeting location, which was the intersection of 10th Street and Gramercy Place in central Los Angeles. He pulls up, he parks, and he waits. He sits in his car for hours, agonizing over every shadow, just praying that this nightmare is about to end and he gets his little girl back. But the Fox never makes contact. Why? Because the LAPD had decided to monitor the area and tail Perry without him knowing it. And to make it worse, they did it with the stealth and subtlety of a marching band. Hickman arrived at 10th and Gramercy, immediately spotted the aggressively obvious police presence casing the area, completely panicked, and fled the scene before ever approaching Perry. So, Perry's left sitting in his car for hours, completely alone, having no idea that the cops had just accidentally chased away the kidnapper. So he lost his only chance to get his daughter back at that point.
Yeah,
Fucking way to go,
pretty much.
LAPD.
It really is sad.
They should have at least told him.
No shit. Do we give him a gold star for that? Gold star.
They get a silver star for that one. That's a silver star.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, you don't even win. Silver star. Silver star police work, fellas. Okay, so Hickman actually had the nerve to be offended by that. He sends a letter aggressively scolding Perry, writing, "Mr. Parker, I am ashamed of you." He literally accuses the desperate father of disappointing his own daughter and ruining the exchange by involving the cops. To drive the terror home, he threatens Marion's life with gruesome specifics, writing, "Remember that life hangs by a thread. I have a Gillette ready, and I am able to handle the situation." Now, a Gillette as in a razor blade. He repeatedly reminds Perry not to set traps because he is very sly and always watching. He demands respect, stating, "Be sensible and use good judgment. You can't deal with a mastermind like a common crook or kidnapper," which is exactly what the fuck he is. The sheer delusion of this 19-year-old check forger is staggering. He signs off these final notes with hybrid edgelord names like Fox, Fate, And just to add a layer of religious mockery to his inflated God complex, he ends several of his letters with the ultimate dismissive taunt. If you want aid against me, ask God, not man. It's infuriating. He wasn't a mastermind, he was just an arrogant, pathetic teenager playing a sadistic game that cost a little girl her life.
And the toll this is taking on the family is unimaginable. Reporters swarming outside the house described Perry and Geraldine as being completely on the verge of physical collapse. They are feverishly waiting by the phone, clinging to any shred of news, totally paralyzed by the suspense. Meanwhile, Marion's older brother, Perry Jr., has to step up. While his parents are falling apart, this teenage boy is actively trying to shield his mother from hearing the most terrifying details and rumors coming in about his little sister. That poor kid having to play the strong protector while his sister's missing and his parents are actively breaking down. This whole situation isn't just a crime, it's a masterclass in cruelty.
And this is the moment where the timeline shifts from a tense extortion case straight into an absolute horror movie. 2 agonizing days after Marion was taken, her father, Perry, finally got the go-ahead to make the ransom drop. After the earlier botched attempt was aggressively ruined by an aggressively obvious police presence, he was given permission to meet the kidnapper entirely alone. He was terrified that any more interference would cost his daughter her life. Late in the evening on December 17th, right around 8 p.m., Perry arrived at the designated meeting location in central LA clutching the $1,500 and $20 gold certificates. Hickman, operating under his laughably edgy The Fox persona, pulled up to the meeting spot in a stolen car. But Hickman knew there was a massive flaw in his plan. He used to work for Perry. To prevent his former boss from recognizing him, he took specific cowardly steps to conceal his identity. When he rolled up, he was wearing a hat pulled down low over his eyes, and he had a white handkerchief tied across the lower half of his face like a budget bandit. The second he pulled his car alongside Perry's, he leveled a sawed-off shotgun directly at the desperate father. This wasn't a threat, it was a highly calculated diversion. The shotgun distracted Perry and completely prevented him from getting a close, critical inspection of the driver.
Hickman barked orders, keeping Perry focused squarely on the passenger seat to ensure that the money was handed over as fast as humanly possible. Perry looked desperately into Hickman's vehicle. To his immense, overwhelming relief, he saw a 12-year-old Marion sitting right there. She was bundled up tightly in a blanket and a heavy coat right up to her neck, completely unable to move, but Perry could see her face, her eyes were open, and she was just looking straight ahead. So seeing that his little girl was alive, assuming she was just chloroformed, dazed, or paralyzed with fear, Perry handed over the ransom money. The absolute second the cash was in Hickman's hands, he slammed his foot on the gas, bolted, and as the stolen car sped down the dark street, Hickman violently pushed Marion's bundled body out of the passenger door, dumping her onto the curb and vanishing into the night.
Golly. That's terrible. To see that as a parent, yeah, like in that moment, that would be a huge relief. Like, yeah, she might be a little injured
But I got
now,
her back.
having hit the
Yeah.
ground running, basically.
Mhm.
But I got her back. Until the second Hickman dumped his daughter out of his car, Perry threw his own car into gear. He drives frantically toward the spot where his daughter was just deployed onto the lawn at 432 South Manhattan Place. He is so desperate to get her that he literally jumps out of his car while it is still moving. He runs over to the heaping bundle on the grass. He reaches down, he scoops her into his arms, and lets out a scream so loud and so full of agonizing grief that it physically wakes up the entire neighborhood. Because what he picked up wasn't a sleeping or drugged up child, it was just her torso. Her limbs had been completely severed. And as if the brutality of that wasn't enough to permanently break a father's mind, Hickman had taken the horror a step further. He went as far as to meticulously wire her eyelids open to trick Perry into thinking that she was alive. This absolute demon took the time to apply rouge to Marion's cheeks, literally painting a dead child's face with makeup so she would appear flushed and alive in the shadows of the street lamp. What the fuck?
That's, yeah. What the fuck? That's the only thing that you can say to that.
Like she's sewn up like a fucking puppet. That's
It hasn't
crazy.
even gotten to that yet. But yeah, it is. Like her eyes were sewn.
God. Yeah.
Passersby and neighbors who hear Perry's agonizing screams look out and see Hickman's car speeding away into the dark. Assuming the worst of the standard 1920s traffic, they immediately call the police and report a hit and run. But when officers arrive just minutes later, they don't find a traffic accident. They walk onto the lawn and find Perry in a state of agonizing total shock, rocking on the grass and cradling the mutilated remains of his little girl. The police immediately rush the body to the morgue. By 9 p.m., literally 1 hour after the drop, the coroner examines the remains and delivers a devastating reality check. Marion had been dead for approximately 12 hours. She was slaughtered long before the exchange ever took place. William Hickman had never had any intention of giving her back alive. He just wanted the cash and the sick thrill of torturing his former boss for holding him accountable for his check fraud.
So, to put this into perspective, big picture this with me for just a second. Perry had him prosecuted for check fraud and got probation, not even jail time. So, in retaliation, Hickman dismembers his daughter and robs him anyway. It's just so incomprehensible that that is the chain of events that we're dealing with right
Yeah.
now. That's insane.
It I don't even know how like what to say. That's way too extreme for what you're trying to accomplish. Like why?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I have literally zero words for this, and I am usually a person of many words.
no.
I got fucking nothing here. This is insane.
Fucking person is a sick bastard.
Yeah. And we have to pause and talk about the morning after the ransom drop because the true nauseating scope of Hickman's depravity didn't end on that curb. When Hickman pushed Marion out of the car the night before, he hadn't just returned a mutilated child. He had returned a limbless, completely hollowed out torso. During the dismemberment, he had entirely disemboweled her, stuffing her empty chest and abdominal cavities with rags, a man's shirt, and towels he brought from his own apartment. He did this specifically to maintain the body's shape and weight so she would appear whole and alive under the heavy coat during the drop. So the horrifying question for the LAPD the next morning was, where the fuck was the rest of her?
A man out for a casual morning walk stumbled across 6 separate newspaper wrapped packages secured with twine, just casually dumped along the roadway. Because they were quite suspicious, he did call the police. When investigators opened them, it was pure nightmare fuel. 4 of the bundles contained her arms and legs, which Hickman had methodically severed at the elbows and the knees. The remaining 2 bundles contained her missing internal organs. And because Hickman was a deeply sick individual who operated with terrifyingly cold calculation, the limbs found in the park weren't just tossed out in a panic. He had actually taken the time to wash the blood off of them before neatly wrapping them like twisted little presents in copies of the LA Examiner and the LA Times. Not only that, but around the exact same time that morning, the LAPD got a massive assist from a woman who was also actually paying attention to her surroundings. Over at the 620 South Manhattan place, which, by the way, is literally just a couple of blocks down the street from where Marion was dropped, a resident walked out to her front yard. She was probably just expecting to enjoy her morning coffee and grab a paper, but instead she made another horrifying discovery. A heavy blood-soaked suitcase just casually abandoned on her lawn. She had the good sense not to mess with it and immediately called the police. So when investigators arrived and popped the latches, they realized that this was the exact piece of luggage Hickman had used to transport Marion's hollowed-out torso to the ransom exchange. Inside, they found blood-stained papers and, in a detail straight out of a horror film, the exact spool of thread Hickman had used to meticulously sew the little girl's eyes open.
I am so glad that people, at least in the 1920s, had the good sense to not fuck with the stuff and just call the police. I feel like I'd be way too nosy to do that first. I'd be like, oh, what's in here?
I mean,
That's bloody.
Didn't she open it though? She opened it and then she called the police.
Did she?
I think that's
Is that what it just said? Did I hear you wrong?
How did she know it was blood soaked unless she had opened it?
There's probably blood on the outside of it. It's what he used to haul her shit
Her
around.
torso.
Not shit, but
Wow.
her body. Her body around in.
Okay.
At least I didn't say she was disposable because they had 3.
I never said that. I didn't even say anything kind of close to that. I didn't.
Didn't you,
That's so
though?
fucking mean. That's not okay.
Mm-hmm. So, moving right along, shortly after that, the kidnappers' abandoned Chrysler coupe was located sitting in a parking garage over in the Westlake Park district. During the autopsy, the medical examiner found that one of the items used to keep Marion's torso alive looking was a blood-stained towel conspicuously monogrammed with the words Bellevue Arms Apartments. For all his obnoxious bragging about being an untouchable criminal mastermind, Hickman was profoundly stupid enough to leave his literal home address stuffed inside the victim. It was the immediate reporting of these gruesome discoveries by the public that allowed the police to fully pivot. The civilian tips blew the scope of the crime wide open. This was no longer just a botched local kidnapping, it was a massive national murder investigation. The physical evidence from the suitcase, the car, and those LA Examiner newspapers were exactly what authorities needed to eventually track the horror back to the Bellevue Arms and put a real name to the Fox. And I guess later we'll find out, what did the fox say?
Ring ding 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 ding.
I'll probably edit that out.
Thanks to the absolute gift of that monogram towel, the LAPD finally had a solid location, the Bellevue Arms Apartments. When investigators arrived at the building on December 19th, which is the day after all of that discovery, they started asking questions. They questioned the proprietor, who was a man named John Henry. He immediately gave them a solid lead. He told police about a new tenant, a young man who had recently rented out apartment 315 under the name Donald Evans. Armed with this information, Detective Frank DeLong and J.P. Fitzgerald were dispatched to the unit. They knock on the door, and who answers? A thin, pale, sharp-featured man who flawlessly matches the physical description of the suspect they've been hunting for days. He introduces himself as Donald Evans. He's visibly sweating and acting incredibly nervous.
Donald Evans? He's terrible at picking names.
It's no George Fox.
It ain't no George Fox, that's for sure. Now, and this is the part of the story where you have to take a deep breath and keep from screaming. All right, so the detectives stand there and interview this Donald Evans character for several minutes. But because they don't have a search warrant and because they don't immediately see a blinking neon sign or a child's shoe sitting in the hallway, they just leave. They literally looked the most wanted man in America right in his stupid lying fucking face, decided he was probably fine, and went about their rounds. William Hickman, completely realizing that his luck had just bottomed out and that the net was closing in, immediately packed a bag and fled the city. By the time the detectives finally realized their catastrophic, embarrassing mistake and returned that evening with a warrant, the apartment was completely empty. Go fucking figure. They had fumbled the takedown of the century. Gold fucking star Scooby-Doo.
I told you there was a gold
Ridiculous.
star later. They got the silver star for the first one. Yeah. Face to face with the dude. I'm like, okay. Seems fine. Go ahead. We're good. Yeah.
All right, well,
We're
have a
fine.
good day, Donnie.
So while the while the LAPD
LAPD.
okay, Forrest. While the LAPD missed the man, they did hit a forensic jackpot. They returned later that evening with a warrant, and investigators finally breached Unit 315, and the trail of evidence Hickman left behind was undeniable. This wasn't just where he lived, this was the slaughterhouse. In the bathroom, detectives found human blood and hair in the bathtub, confirming the grim reality that this is the exact site of Marion's dismemberment. Out in the living space, they found discarded, crumpled up drafts of ransom notes and a bottle of highly specific blue ink that he used to sign his edgy little fox telegrams. But the most bizarre, absolute smoking gun of evidence found in that apartment was sitting right in the wastebasket. It was the half shell of a Brazil nut. Why does a nut matter? Because it was a microscopic, perfect puzzle piece match for a fragmented shell found tucked inside the pocket of Marion's English printed dress. He could clean the tub, but he couldn't hide the trash.
So the last case, the dude was basically outed by a Q-tip, and now this guy, he's getting fucked by a goddamn Brazil nutshell.
You know what I learned from watching Friends? The Brazil nut is not actually a nut. It is a seed masquerading as a nut.
Well, cool. So once the public realizes exactly what Hickman had done, the city of Los Angeles doesn't just panic, it goes completely feral. The combination of a massive $100,000 bounty and the sheer visceral outrage over what happened to a 12-year-old girl turned the entire West Coast into a hyper-paranoid vigilante mob. Anyone who was thin, pale, and remotely sharp-featured suddenly had a massive target on their back. The paranoia was also so intense that innocent lookalikes were actively being hunted down in the streets. One incredibly unfortunate guy who happened to share a passing resemblance to Hickman was arrested 7 different times in a single 8-hour period. You cannot even fathom the sheer exhaustion of trying to go about your day and getting aggressively tackled by a new set of angry citizens
That's gotta be
every
funny.
hour. I would just
I
fucking knock it off.
with that kind of a bounty, I'd be tackling some skinny little bitches too.
No, but I mean the same fucking dude. How
I mean,
how
that
unfortunate
sucks,
for
but
that
it's still
dude.
funny.
He's probably just trying to get some Mickey D's and go home and like watch baseball or something. And like, nope,
McDonald's wasn't around yet.
I fucking hate you sometimes. So the experience for this guy was so harrowing that the man finally just broke down and begged the police to let him stay locked in jail for his own physical protection until the real killer was caught. Just keep me
Poor
here.
guy. So, another
know.
guy, a man named Michael O'Neill, suffered a similar fate. He looked so much like the suspect that he was arrested 5 separate times by overzealous locals. It got so completely out of hand that the police actually had to write him an official hall pass. They literally gave him a certified police letter to carry in his pocket, essentially stating, "Please stop tackling this man. He is not the child murderer." Most tragically, a man named Ralph McCoy was arrested simply because he resembled the fox. Shortly after being locked up, he was found hanged in his jail cell. To this day, it's believed that he was either lynched by other inmates who thought that they were serving ultimate street justice, or he was driven to suicide by the crushing terror of being mistaken for the most hated man in America. The city was completely out for blood, and in their absolute fury, they didn't care whose it was. That's sad. Like, can you imagine that kind of a pressure, like that kind of pressure being on you?
Yeah. Just because you kind of look like somebody, and meanwhile, Hickman is just driving around getting away with it at this point. And all these people are getting tackled to the ground and getting arrested 8 times a fucking day or whatever, 7 times a day. It's stupid. It's fucking stupid.
It's kind of entertaining. It If I was that criminal mastermind, I would just be watching the news like, what are these dumbasses doing? And I would laugh. As the
Why did you put that in quotes? Why did you put it in quotes if I was the criminal? You are. I feel like you'd be a great criminal. You'd be a smooth criminal.
I know enough.
Okay. And let's not forget the local mob bosses. The crime syndicates of Los Angeles were so profoundly disgusted by what Hickman did to a child that they actually offered their own soldiers to help police hunt him down. When the literal mafia steps in because they think you are too evil and need to be eradicated, you have officially reached the bottom of the human garbage barrel. To seal his fate, a massive reward fund is cobbled together by the Parker family, public donations, and media campaigns. The bounty for Hickman's capture reaches $100,000, and in today's money, that is roughly $1.8 million. There wasn't a single rock on the entire West Coast that he would be able to hide under at that point.
To understand how Hickman was finally caught, we have to look at the one genuinely brilliant trap that the authorities set. So let's go way back to before Perry Parker even made that horrific drop. He and the police meticulously recorded the unique serial numbers of all 75 of those $20 gold certificates. Once the murder was discovered, those serial numbers were blasted all over radio and published in newspapers, putting merchants and bank tellers everywhere on high alert. And because gold certificates were incredibly distinct, featuring bright orange badges and gold seals, they weren't exactly stealthy. But Hickman, arrogant and completely devoid of common sense, just started casually spending them as he fled north. He left a glowing neon paper trail all the way up the West Coast, and in Seattle, he dropped 2 certificates at a haberdashery to buy cold weather clothes, and in Portland, he used one at a restaurant, managing to slip out the door right before the proprietor could verify the bill against the published police list. He was hitting gas stations all over Oregon, casually handing out marked bills to pay for his fuel. By the time he reached the tiny town of Echo, Oregon, the entire Pacific Northwest was actively hunting for a sharp-featured guy spending Parker's money. Even after all that absolute insanity, the actual capture of Hickman didn't come from a brilliant LA detective piecing together clues in a smoky room, nor did it come from the furious civilian mobs back in California. It came down to the small town cops.
As it usually does.
They put more effort.
I feel like they got something to prove.
They don't have shit going on in their
Yeah.
towns. Let's do something good for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, let's actually do our job. Yeah. Let's do what we get paid for. That'd be great. So on December 22nd, his luck officially expired. Chief Tom Gurdane and Officer Buck Llewellyn that's what I gotta say it like that. I'm sorry. Spotted Hickman cruising through Echo in his stolen green Hudson. They took one look at his face, instantly recognized him from the wanted circulars plastered across the coast, and hit the sirens, the wee-woos, if you will. What followed was a chaotic 2-mile high-speed chase. Hickman's stolen car eventually careened entirely off the road near a bridge, coming to a crashing halt. Chief Gurdane didn't take any chances. He approached the wreckage with his pistol drawn and ready. Hickman was sitting in the driver's seat with his sawed-off shotgun resting between his knees. But the absolute coward didn't even try to fight. He just raised his hands in surrender and reportedly whined, "You've got me." When they searched his heavy overcoat, they found 1,400 of those marked gold certificates stuffed right into his pockets. Word spread fast that they had finally caught the monster who slaughtered the Parker girl. Before authorities could even process him to get him out of the state, an absolutely furious mob formed in Oregon, fully intending to lynch him right then and there. Police had to place him under incredibly heavy guard just to successfully extradite him back to the Los Angeles by train. And honestly, it's a real tragedy that the mob didn't get to the train station first.
Let me go back. You said something. Oh, a chaotic 2-mile high-speed chase. The dude, what kind of a horrible driver was this dude to not even get more than 2 miles before he effectively totaled the vehicle? Like 2 miles, dude?
I want to see the video of it, but I know there isn't one. How chaotic could a 2-mile chase be?
There's no way, but it's like 2 miles. Like that just shows how much of a shitty driver that guy was. That's definitely a teenage driver.
Yeah. I wonder who was driving the chase car, though. Like, was it Buck Llewellyn or was it Tom Gurdane?
Well, Gurdane was the chief, so it was probably Llewellyn. Chief is going to sit and just ride shotgun and call the shots. Okay, so while Hickman was on the train being heavily guarded and extradited back to LA, he decided to start writing. He penned a chilling, high-detailed 19-page confession. And what was the great mastermind motive behind the brutal slaughter of a 12-year-old girl? He claimed he needed the $1,500 to pay for his college tuition because apparently violently destroying a family and tearing a child apart was just his twisted version of applying for student loans. In his confession, he admitted to strangling Marion to death simply because he got spooked by the aggressively obvious police presence at the very first ransom drop. He meticulously detailed the dismemberment and the sickening steps he took to make her appear alive for the payoff. And as if that wasn't enough, he casually cleared his conscience by admitting to a dozen other armed robberies, plus the unsolved murder of a pharmacist named Clarence Ivy Toms during a robbery the prior year. He wasn't a mastermind. He was just a violent menace.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Poor Clarence. And student loans. Like he needed to get into college. Okay, so do strippers, but they're not out there chopping people up.
No, just get on a pole. Come on, Fox.
Swing that thing. So when the trial kicked off, Hickman realized he was staring down the barrel of a death penalty sentence. So he tried to completely manipulate the system. California had just passed a new law allowing a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. And Hickman became one of the very first to test drive it. But we all know how well he can drive. Look at that 2-mile chase. His brilliant legal strategy, he claimed a supernatural deity named Providence had commanded him to commit the murder. But the prosecution absolutely obliterated him. They brought the jail guards to the stand, who happily testified that Hickman had been walking around his cell block, literally asking the other inmates for tips on how to act crazy for the jury. It took the jury exactly 43 minutes to reject his entire defense and laugh his ass out of the courtroom. On February 9th, 1928, William Edward Hickman was officially declared sane, found guilty of first-degree murder and kidnapping, and was sentenced to fucking death.
Hoo-ha!
Hoo-ha! Or something.
So this is the part of the story where the universe steps in and delivers absolute poetic justice. On the morning of his execution at San Quentin State Prison, all of Hickman's arrogant, tough guy energy completely evaporated. He was in a state of total physical collapse and literally had to be assisted up the steps of the gallows because his legs wouldn't work.
At least you still had him.
Oh, shit.
I mean, really.
Oh, damn. So, as the executioner placed the black hood over his head, Hickman was so paralyzed by pure cowardice that he had actually fainted. His knees just totally buckled, and because his body was entirely sagging when the trapdoor finally opened, the drop didn't generate enough force to cleanly snap his neck. Instead, the spectators stood there and watched for approximately 10 to 15 agonizing minutes as Hickman slowly strangled to death at the end of the rope. An autopsy later confirmed he died of asphyxiation. I don't know why I can't say I still can't. He died of asphyxiation, not by a broken neck. He brutally strangled a 12-year-old girl, and in the end, Karma made sure he went out the exact same way.
Atta girl, Karma.
That is poetic justice. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm fucking glad. I hope it was terrible for him. Yeah.
Like, I'm scared.
No, please don't. I'm sorry. It was an accident.
You have to carry me. My legs don't work.
I bet you he shit himself.
He probably
Okay.
did.
So as a final footnote to this absolute menace of a case, Hickman's capture actually changed the legal landscape. The $5,000 reward for his capture was handed over and split between Chief Gardain and Officer Buck up in Oregon. But lawmakers looked at the situation and decided it was a terrible precedent to set. Consequently, California changed its laws. Its laws.
Sounded like the Grinch when you said that.
I did a little bit. Or 007, one or the other. Okay. Consequently, California changed its laws to mandate that active law enforcement officers can no longer collect public bounty rewards for simply doing their fucking jobs and capturing fugitives. The fucking end. We did it!
Yay! Are we done?
That was fun.
Yay!
We're done with that part. We're not like done.
Dun dun dun.
That's right, because Holly, we've reached the point in the episode where we break down exactly how this entire nightmare was a catastrophic failure. This is where I get to do my why this case is a hot mess. All right. Okay. Yeah, look at you. Not giving a fuck, not happy. I don't care. All right, so
I'm fine. I'm just not as happy as you are. I
I
don't
don't
like
know why you're not.
I can't do the dance with it. I can't.
You can, you just don't. I want you to dance with me. Okay, so here are the top 3 reasons this case is the ultimate hot mess. So, the world's worst school scrutiny. A random trench-coated teenager walks in, claims the dad is hurt, and when told the child is a twin, he literally has to guess which one he's taking. And the school just hands her over. No phone calls, no ID, just absolute gullibility. Reason number 2, the secret stakeout. The LAPD decides to monitor the first ransom drop with a police convoy so aggressively obvious that they actively scare off the kidnapper, leaving a desperate father sitting in his car alone for hours. Reason number 3, the Bellevue Arms fumble, which I have to say is probably the biggest fucking mistake of this case. Detectives trace a literal monogrammed towel straight to the killer's apartment. Look at the guy sweating, identical to the suspect description, right in the face. And then just tip their hats and leave because he used a fake name. Not even just a fake name, but the name Donald. And they let him go. Holly, what the fuck you think of that?
It's honestly a miracle I haven't thrown the microphone across the room. The absolute staggering incompetence at every level is what makes this so infuriating. William Hickman wasn't some brilliant, sly mastermind playing 4D chess with authorities like he thought he was. He was a profoundly stupid, deeply arrogant 19-year-old check forger who brought his own monogram bath towels to a murder. He only got as far as he did because the adults in charge were asleep at the wheel. The system failed Marion Parker at every single checkpoint, and the only thing in this entire horrific story that actually functioned exactly the way it was supposed to was the gallows trapdoor.
Yeah, I have to agree. Very good, Holly. I love that. I don't like how your camera is treating you tonight with the blurriness, but I love that. Oh, hello.
Hi.
Hello, Holly. And make sure you're following and subscribe to Hot Mess Murder Club anywhere you lurk for your podcast, especially on YouTube, because it has the full visual if you want to watch two old bitches side-eye their own script and each other. And remember, if you're trying
Who are you calling old?
You're older than me. You're the old bitch, technically.
I look younger than you.
I don't think so.
I would do a mic drop, but it's hooked up to this damn arm, and I can't
push
do
it
it,
away.
so I just push it away. Mic drop.
You old bitch. And remember, if you're trying to be the criminal mastermind of the century, maybe leave your monogram bath towels at home. All right, you guys, stay safe, stay feral, and get the fuck out of my house. Goodbye.
Bye.
Had to pull the mic back for that one, didn't you? Oh, what are you going to say now? No mic in front of your face. Oh. You old bitch. Say bye, Kiki.